Well, welcome back, everybody. There's 150 of you now. Wow, no pressure. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. This presentation is on mentoring the next generation of driver ed instructors, which a lot of you might think doesn't apply to you, but that is not true. It totally applies to you because you're going to figure out how to help the next generation of instructors to learn how to do what you do. All right, so we're going to I'm going to ask some questions. Have you guys ever had a great mentor? You can answer in the chat feature if you so desire. If you did have a great mentor, who were they? And what did they do that was so great for you? Think about why they were helpful at that point in your life, at that point in your career. Why were they helpful? And what has been the lasting impact of their mentorship on you? Got a lot of you have talked about yes, you've talked about too many to share. Thanks, James. Sean, yes, they were above and beyond information sharing, willing to answer questions. That's great. that your mentor had the courage to do this for 42 years is quite impressive. Oh, great. Fourth grade, all the way back to fourth grade, of course. We often find it easy to find mentors back, when we're young, but we have a harder time as they get older, maybe. Having, a safe place to talk and share out. Absolutely, Erin, absolutely. Oh, Dave, I'm so glad that Roy is an amazing mentor for you, and Nikki, that Mari has been. Good. It looks like we've had some really great experience with mentors as individuals, whether it's a personal mentor, whether it's somebody at work, whether it's a coach or an elementary school teacher even. I mean, my goodness, for real, right? These mentors do really great things for us. Why do we need mentors? I'm going to take that back a little bit and go back into the chat box. Oh, Heidi, yep, Linda Main, for sure. She got me into driver ed too. She always was on the lookout for women, trying to help women get into driver ed. Why do we need mentors? There really are things only experience can teach. Exactly. They help us learn the ropes. Yep. Teach us which one to grab, which one to not. We can learn from their mistakes and start off better, for sure. Avoid the blind leading the blind. Yes. Teach us the tricks to survive, the do's and the don'ts. Good. Yeah. Yeah. These are great things. They teach and support us as we learn. Exactly. I was looking online the other night and found this little blurb about why we need mentors. Mentors can help you make the connections that may be necessary to accomplish some of your goals. Sometimes we don't realize how to get from where we are to where we want to be, and the path is not clear. We do need their support and connections, Marianne, like Marianne says. Number 2, it says mentors bring out qualities in you that you may never have been able to reach yourself. We will have somebody say something to us that will open our eyes to a different way or a different thing, that will help us to realize we can actually achieve these things that we're trying to achieve. Number 3, mentors have the experience we're striving for, and they've been in the situations we're setting ourselves up to be part of. I think that's kind of what we're talking about in the chat, is that they give us their experience and they say, okay, this is what's happened with me. Take it and run with it. Go somewhere else with it. Like Nikki says, a good story can stick like gum on a shoe, for sure, for sure. And number 4, mentors look out for you and consider you and your skills when opportunities cross their path. I was just thinking about Linda Main again, and she for sure was a great mentor to me. I knew I wanted to get into driver education, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. And so I called her and she helped me set up the path. I had done not alternative route to licensure, excuse me. I had done additional endorsements in the past, but I never could get anybody at Utah State Board of Ed to answer my phone call when I needed help. And Linda answered every single time. And she never told me that my question was stupid. She never made me feel like, well, didn't you read my last email? She was so great about that. And after I got my endorsement, I remember talking with her at a mutual friend's wedding. And the mutual friend had a couple of minutes where I could run off to go and chat with Linda. And she asked me about something what to do with the 350 class at University of Utah, and I complained like you would not believe. It was my only A- postgraduate school, and I was so mad about it. And she said, oh, well, that guy has just told me that he's going to retire. Do you want to teach it? I was like, oh, sure. You never know how your mentor from 3, 4, 5 years in the past may provide an opening for you in the future, because they happen to know us really well and know what things will fit with us. Well, driver education is almost an apprenticeship program. It's not really set up as a traditional college. It is set up more as an apprenticeship, with you having a mentor who guides you through the process and teaches you for up to 2 years how to get from the beginning to the end. And then once you're set free, they're still there, which is the cool thing about having a mentor to try and help you. And I believe every single one of you probably will be a mentor at some point. Whether you're brand new in the field, whether you've been here for 42 years, you'll be a mentor at some point. All right, so what's the role of a mentor? How is being a mentor different from the other roles that we have, a peer or a coworker, a department chair, a supervisor, or a coach in a school? Let me know in the chat feature or the Q&A, what you think about that. How is being a mentor different from the other roles that we have here in schools? Casey Bundy says mentors are more peer-to-peer. Yeah. One-on-one help for sure. It's all of those things combined. That's true. You really do all of those things kind of combined. The one-on-one help is so nice. Every time we have someone who joins my department as an intern, I just kind of I cringe a little bit, not because they're going to have a hard time per se, but they'll never, ever, ever have that student teaching one-on-one that they have when they're an intern. Mentee can teach the mentor new things. That's true. A supervisor, it tends to be one way. A coach, it tends to be one way, but a mentee, you can go back and forth a little bit more. They're there with you for the ups and downs and all the questions. Exactly. Yes. So a mentor is a little more personal. It's a little more, I hesitate to use this word because we're in a school setting, but it's a little more of an intimate relationship. You can be vulnerable with your mentor, where it's really hard to show some of those vulnerabilities to people who are somehow your manager or even your peer. The mentor wants you to be successful. Of course they do. They want you to be the best person that you can be for your future career. Yeah, great thoughts. So a mentor, we often think of as the coaching part and the training part. But sometimes we forget that mentors also motivate, they give advice, they are there to share in and celebrate our successes. They're there to give us direction. They're there to support us and to help us find the goal that we want at the end. And all of these things are put together to be a mentor. Yes, exactly. That's right, Randy. Okay, so what does a mentor in driver education do? It's pretty simple. You're going to help your mentee, or I'm going to call them the teacher candidate, set up some goals, whether they're long-term, short-term, intermediate. We're setting up some goals here. You're going to help them with training. You're going to help them know policy. That's really important. They need to know school level policy, district level policy, state level policy, Utah State Board of Ed policy, driver license division policy. They need to know all of those things related to the classroom and to the car. And it really is kind of excessive. I used to teach history, and I still teach American Sign Language in the regular everyday classroom. And I tell you, I don't know a lot of policy about those two, but I sure know an awful lot of policy about driver education. We monitor them. We help make sure that they're progressing toward their goal, that they're making adequate progress. We provide opportunities for them to observe us and other people. It's really important that they get to not just see us as their mentor, but that they get to see other people around the school or even the district that we feel are really good at their job. We provide practice. They can practice their craft with a safety net. We observe them, and we get to see what they're doing and what's working and what's not, and how can we help them find a way around whatever rock has been put in their path by a kid, by a problem, by a parent, by content. Sometimes teaching a particular content's challenging. All of those things we observe, and then we're going to assign them homework, believe it or not. When you're a mentor, remember back to your mentors. And they weren't just there to listen or to talk to you. They also gave you things to work on, whether it was a mental exercise, a physical exercise, a paper, a thinking, discussion, something. We're going to assign them some kind of homework. Again, it's to help them get back to their goal. We're always thinking about that goal setting. And then we're going to evaluate and provide them feedback with our observations and our monitoring and the homework that they turn into us. We're going to help them find the answers that we don't know, because believe it or not, you're going to find things that you don't know the answer to. And you're going to have to ask your district coordinator. You're going to have to ask your supervisor. You're going to have to ask the bus garage and find the answers that they have to questions. Excuse me, because they don't know who to ask. Even if they have a clue, they don't know who to ask. And then we're going to be there to celebrate their successes with them along the way. Yeah, Dylan says, observing a mentor is so helpful, especially since I'm a visual learner. Yeah, we can talk about it all day long, but until we actually observe and give feedback, it can be really hard. And it can be super scary to have somebody observe us, right? A lot of us are teachers who have been in the classroom for a long time. We think we're through the student teaching process. And then suddenly we have somebody who's going to come in and observe us. And they're going to look and see what we do. And oh, if that can be just a little bit scary for sure. Excuse me. Trevor's got a comment here in the chat. Although the term was not used at the time and I never did a driver ed at the school, I moved districts before driving. Desert Hills High School, and all acted with professionalism, helping me along the way. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you had multiple schools who worked with you and helped you. In fact, I encourage that. As someone who mentors driver ed teachers, go and see people at different schools, even in different districts. Maybe you live in one district and you work in another. See if you can observe how things are done differently, because the differences help us maybe to improve our own situation, right? All right, so the USB mentoring course, I apologize, this looks like a wall of text. I apparently didn't have it fly in on one at a time, but the USB mentoring course is there just to support the relationship and to make sure that it's happening, if we're honest. Some people are better at being a mentor than other people are, and that's perfectly acceptable. It's possible that one mentor would be great for one future teacher candidate, and that same mentor would be terrible for another teacher candidate. We want to try and find a good fit, but there are some things we have to do. Both the driver education teacher and the candidate have to sign up for the mentor class and take the class at the same time. We've had some trouble with the the driver education teacher candidate signing up for the mentoring course, and then they finish and their mentor hasn't signed up yet. And so you cannot finish as a teacher candidate until your mentor completes their portion of the class. Really, the class for the mentor is a way for them to prove that they have gone through some steps, talk to their teacher candidate about policies, that they know what's going on in the school, that, those kinds of things. It's not a lot of work for the mentor teacher, which I think a lot of mentors are afraid of. you're already doing the work. You're just giving me and our other facilitator, Shauna Kay, some snapshots showing us that you have been doing the work. And that way we know, okay, yes, this person is ready for me to recommend them for their license to be, or their endorsement to be awarded. And then you do the same thing with Audra. The mentor doesn't have to show anything, but the teacher candidate has to show a whole bunch of stuff to Audra Uri to prove, okay, yes, I have done these things. I have this knowledge that I need to have, so I'm ready to get my endorsement. The teacher cannot complete this process until the mentor also completes the entire course. The course should be completed over time. Mentors will complete their evaluations during the course. So it's really important that you're looking ahead in the mentoring course and looking for the formative evaluation and the summative evaluation. When the the driver education teacher candidate gets 60 hours of log time on their practicum, they should be having an evaluation done. The evaluation is cumulative over both classroom and in-car. So it might be a little tricky if they only have 60 hours. They probably have not done a lot of in-car actual instruction yet. But remember that endorsement now is not 2 endorsements, it's only 1. So we need to see that the person is making progress. The formative evaluation does not have a section where you type in information like a letter of recommendation. The summative should, I'm not positive that it actually does right this minute. I noticed there's a typo on those. They both said summative, so I got to go back and fix that. But the summative evaluation should be done at the very end when they finished all 120 hours of their practicum time, and you as the mentor feel like they are ready to go and be their teacher in their own classroom and in their own car. Because when you finish that mentor course with them and they turn in all their work, you're kind of stating on your own good name, on your own license, that I certify this teacher knows what they need to know to be able to do what they need to do safely and within policy to be a driver education teacher. And like Audra says in the chat, this course is going to help save you from a civil lawsuit. If somebody comes to you and says, well, I didn't get prepared to do X, Y, or Z, that's problematic. We need to make sure that they understand their rules. And then one of the biggest things I can't emphasize really enough is I need you to keep a copy of both the logs and their evaluations, which is not on this slide, I apologize, but keep a copy as their mentor, keep a copy of that student teacher's logs and their evaluations for at least a year. You're probably going to complete the course and then somebody's going to ask you for that evaluation to pay you as the mentor. And if you don't have a copy of that, I can't get it back for you. Once you're removed from the class because you're finished, I can't get that evaluation back. So you're going to have to submit those to the course. Audra gets to see them if she wants to. I look over them and make sure that things look good. And then at your district coordinator will want a copy of those when they're going to pay you for it. The evaluation should be put in the teacher's files. That's going to be Audra says that in the chat. That's probably going to be on a district level. And so you as the mentor want to keep a copy, make sure that you have a good signature on it so that if it's asked for the teacher's employment file, that they have it. Okay. And then if you want to tell your mentor tell the teacher candidate you are mentoring to also keep a copy of their log and their evaluations, both of them. Okay, man, I just didn't put in my transitions. I apologize. You're going to sign up for the course through USBE's professional development catalog. Audra can tell you how. As soon as a student is entered into any of the courses that are part of this endorsement, we give them the information for it. So you can ask your teacher candidate that you're mentoring, how do I sign up for this? Give me the link, and they'll be able to get it for you. Audra also says your MIDAS transcript and the evaluation will go to your district driver ed director. This is how you're paid. Perfect. The mentor signs up for one course and the teacher candidate signs up for another. They're actually in the same course, but your different sections within that course. And the reason why we did that is so that we don't assign everything to everybody. There's specific assignments for the student teacher, and there's specific assignments for the mentor teacher. The course does not follow semesters, which for some people is great. For other people, it causes great stress. But you have 2 years. A teacher candidate has 2 years from the time they start to the time they must finish the endorsement. If they don't, in theory, they have to start over, or at least they may have to take a couple of courses again, say the law and policy class and things like that. So encourage your mentees to finish within 2 years. The way we have the courses set up, it is possible to finish in 1 year, but it is consistent all year coursework going in the spring/winter, summer, and fall. And then please pay attention to your candidate's log. One of the problems we have when a teacher candidate submits their log is that they'll say things like, I did my homework. Well, okay, we don't actually want to know we don't want to know that you did your homework. We want to know what you talked to your mentor about. We want to know that you observed class. We want to know that you participated in range. We want to know that you sat in the back of the car and observed tests and behind the wheel training. We want to know that you know how to schedule students for road instruction or how it's scheduled for range at your school, those kinds of things. So it needs to be detailed. When they talk about their log, they should say, discussed with mentor and bullet list the 3 or 4 things that you talked with them about. The reason for that is that we absolutely need to know that we covered everything. So this is the cover your butt document. And it's not just for the student teacher, it's also for the mentor. So take a look at their log and make sure that it's being done correctly. And Audra does say that you can finish in 2 semesters, and she's right. You'd have to take 2 courses during one of those semesters in order to finish in 2 semesters. Okay, so I'm debating whether or not I want to go to the actual course itself. Yeah, let's look at the course itself. Okay. Somebody let me know if you can see this or if you're just seeing my PowerPoint. Can you see the course? Okay, perfect. So this is from the teacher's perspective, obviously, or yeah, the person who created it. But when you go to the course, it will have just these short little 6 modules. If you're a mentor, you won't see this assignment. 1.2 is for student teachers. So that's for your teacher candidates. You'll see 1.3, which is for your mentor teacher. And then you'll have these things to read and a couple of discussions. This is where you're proving to me that you've had these conversations, and some of these are for the student to do only, and some of these are for the mentor to reply back to the student. So you're going to go on to say a discussion like this one, and you're going to look for your student that you are mentoring. So you click right here and you type in their name, and it will bring up only their posts. And then you're able to reply back to them. And I can see that conversation happen back and forth so that I know that the conversation has happened. That's pretty much all we're doing there. And then the big one, like, how do you sign up for classes? It's great. If you have a range, then you're going to complete this section. If you don't have a range, then you don't complete that section. We've got a very brief DEMS training, but it would be very helpful if you as the mentor would sit down with them for a few times when you enter students into DEMS and show them all of those things we talked about in the previous training, especially the find by driver license number button and the link button. And then you don't turn in the hours and signatures as a mentor, but you will turn in 6.2 formative evaluation and summative evaluation. And I want to point that out because it's at the very bottom, but it's not necessarily to be done at the very end. These are kind of put together by categories. And so you may bounce around. You don't have to do them in order. You're allowed to pick and choose what you want to do. And then when all of that is finished, I have an assignment that is not showing up here, but I go in and check the box and say, yes, you are done. As soon as that is checked, you can turn everything into Audra and you're finished. You're ready to go. Okay, I'm going to take a break for a second because I've talked quite a bit, and I'm going to let you ask me questions that you have so far. I'm going to bring up the chat and the Q&A. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. If you don't, that's cool. I get it. Don't feel like you have to have questions. What is the pay for a mentor? Audra, I don't remember. Does it vary by district or is it a set amount?
It is $500, but it's not a guaranteed $500. It has to do with how will you do in Allison's course? And if you finish and complete everything that you're required to do. And then the funding is sent out to your school district, and your district can choose to absorb the money into your driver's ed program, or they can pay it out to you. The money goes from me to your district and your district to you, because we're not allowed to do stipends anymore to you directly. However, with the 30 or so that I've already sent out, every single district paid the mentor, so I haven't had anybody absorb it into their program. So it's $500 if you do a good job.
I would bet they want to pay you. They want to encourage people to be mentors because it takes a lot of time if you're a good mentor. Tina has asked, mentors sign up in Midas. Yes, you sign up in Midas as soon as you have a teacher candidate that has asked you to mentor them, or you've been assigned to one by your district. Then you can go on to Midas. Make sure you sign up for the mentor version and not the student teacher or teacher candidate version. How many years do you need to teach driver ed before you can be a mentor? Oh, that's a great question. Audra, is there a policy on that?
There is. We try to, at our very best, to have at least 3 years of experience. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't be, because obviously we have places where we don't have a mentor very close to someone else. And so sometimes we have to have, so it's we try to get you to have at least 3 years of experience
Well, that follows
before.
teaching as well. I mean,
Correct.
if you're going to get a student teacher, which is what you're doing, you're student teaching, even though you have a teaching license.
Yeah, and that's not a driver's ed rule. It's a licensing
Right.
educator law.
Exactly. So that follows. And Audra did say something about having not another driver education teacher close to you. It is possible for a chunk of your mentoring to not be right next to your mentee. It's possible that you'll do some of your mentoring across the phone, across email, video chat. If they're in another school and you want to observe them teaching, you might have them set up, a Zoom or a Google Meet, or pick another Cisco WebEx, whatever. And you can observe them teaching while you're not physically present in the classroom. It's almost impossible to do that in the car, though. You need to be in a car with someone. So I would encourage you, even if your mentor is, whether your mentor is nearby or far away, set up a schedule to practice with your mentee in the car with your students. Tell them, okay, next week I'm going to drive on Monday and Tuesday from 5:15 a.m. to 7:15 a.m. and I want you to come and be an observer. I found that was very helpful when I was being mentored, and I also do that with the people I mentor. Does this apply in Idaho? Oh, I don't know about that, Jason. I would assume it does. Very.
I answered the question.
Okay.
It applies in Idaho. It's not as many hours of mentoring, and the pay is $60.
Okay, I think it's Ginny says, is there guidance expectations for the mentor so they know what they should do with the mentees? How many hours total would a mentor be expected to spend mentoring? Well, this is our initial guidance. Your mentoring class has some more details. The expectation is 120 hours on the part of the student teacher, the teacher candidate. Now that might include planning or teaching on their own in the classroom. It might it might be part of monitoring simulators that students are working on, or monitoring the range, working under your license as their mentor. But as far as how many hours you have to put in, there's not really a number for the mentor. I would think it's the same. So if I have a student who's been assigned to me as a teacher candidate and I'm mentoring them, we're going to do at least 40 hours in the car. I'm going to be in the car with them the whole time. Maybe 20 or 30 hours of it would be without me, but most of that 120 hours would be with me.
So let me kind of add on to that. One of the other reasons why we started this class is because we had people who were just signing them off that they had actually done the training hours, or we had people who would get 60 hours and never complete the 120 hours. And they never and that completion caused a problem with their license. So this was our way to monitor it. And the program is set up where it's just like normal student teaching. You observe the mentor, teach for a period of time, and then you co-teach, and then now the new instructor is teaching with the mentor watching them. The purpose of mentoring is for you to always be, to know where they are, to be basically in physical type of contact with them. In the classroom, that's not going to be as big of a deal, but that new teacher should never be in the car by themselves. They are not licensed to be an instructor, and if that kid gets in a crash and you as a mentor are not in that car with that new instructor and they do not have a driver's ed endorsement, you are going to be sued criminally and civilly, and we have already had this happen so many times just in the last 2 years. So please do not leave your new teacher that is not endorsed in the car alone with the students driving.
It's different if they're teaching in the classroom.
Or on the range. The range is different too.
Yeah, or monitoring simulators. Some people have simulators in a room. They send so many kids over to do simulator while kids are in another room doing coursework. I totally get that. But if you think about it like a student teacher, I'm never going to leave the building while I have a student teacher unless I have a legally authorized substitute, and then I'm going to go. I may leave my classroom, but I won't leave the building. Well, the car is the building. I'm not going to go to the trunk. So you need to be in the car with that student the whole time. Range, depending on your district, you may still have a policy that says, no, I'm sorry, the licensed instructor has to be there, but you're basically just babysitting. And that's acceptable totally up to the school. As far as classroom participation, you might not participate heavily in the planning of the classroom or the grading, but their lectures, their presentations, their assessments, you should be involved in that process, just like you would if they were a student teacher for whatever your core content is. Erin, what did you say about that can freak out some students? That's funny. Oh yes, Barry asked, you can be a mentor even though you don't teach the class with the school. Yeah, you can be a driving instructor and still be their mentor. Realize that 120 hours needs to encapsulate the whole of driver education. So they should be able to view and participate in road testing, behind the wheel training and observation. If you have a range, they should be part of that process. How kids sign up for range, what are the instructions on range? What's the process there for completing range? If you use simulators, you should be part of that. And the classroom, teaching that 27 or 30 hours of classroom stuff, that should be all part of their practicum log. If I ever get a log that's just like, oh, I was in the car for 120 hours, that is not going to pass. That's not going to leave my hands and go to Audra's hands. I'm going to tell them, you need to go and put in 60 more hours of classroom and range and simulator if your school uses them. Dave just asked a question that happened to catch my eye. Is partial endorsement different than full endorsement? That does not exist any longer. You are fully endorsed as a classroom and behind the wheel trainer and an examiner. There's no separation. Before, in theory, you could be an examiner and not teach the classroom, but that never actually happened in practice. If you were an examiner, you were a licensed teacher to teach in the classroom. I'm going to go back up a little bit because I've missed, the freaking out of students if there's another adult in the class. Yes, that can freak some kids out. I try not to drive with 3 students when I have me and another adult. That's always a little squishy. So that's part of why I schedule with my mentee when they're going to come and observe with me, because then I only schedule 2 students in the car with me and the other adult. Mentors, one for class, one for behind the wheel. Yes. In the back seat with the students. Yeah, Erin, we're going to be in the back seat with the students. It's great. Just make sure you don't have more people than you have seat belts.
Hey, you guys, so the mentor needs to start off in the front seat, yes, training the new person that's in the back seat. And then once they feel like they got the hang of it, then you change places and you're as a mentor in the back seat and the new training student teachers in the front seat.
Absolutely. You cannot have the student teacher give a test though. They can do the training in the front seat and you can help them and teach them and coach them. But once it comes to testing, the student teacher cannot give a test until they are completely licensed, which can be problematic because they don't really get the chance to test. And so you can either give like a faux test to a couple of students and say, hey, you're just going to practice testing with this driver as part of your observation time. That's fine. The actual test, though, has to be given by you as the fully licensed and endorsed teacher. Jim says, one day is 8 hours. I think 8 to 12 and 1 to 5 should be 8 hours. Yes. And you have to take a break in there. I think it's a 30-minute break in the middle, at least. You can do differently on that too, if you want to. Okay. And Dave Fletcher, you are absolutely right. You can be grandfathered in. In fact, Audra should have done that already. So if you have a question about whether you have everything done that you need to have done to be fully licensed, email Audra and she can check. I think everybody who's currently licensed probably already has everything they need to have be done. How about the student teacher keep a score sheet? Ooh, Randy, great idea. Yes, I like to give the test and have my mentee sitting in the back using a score sheet of their own. And then we compare them when the student's gone and everything. And we see if they caught the same errors that I did. And sometimes you can't catch them because you're in the back. That seat back gets in the way of being able to see exactly what the student's head and eyes did. But usually they end up pretty much the same. And it's very, very helpful. That's, again, part of that inter-rater reliability that we talked about with my other other presentation. The trainee score. Yep. These are great ideas. If there's any issue with your license, then Audra says she would have reached out to you already. Okay, cool. So let's go back to my presentation. Share my screen. Okay. We'll jump back into here and, this is my last slide. That's funny. We're going to finish early, Audra. Sorry. As a mentor, your job is to teach, to encourage, to guide, to instruct, to influence. It also says mentor in there, but praise and nurture and inspire. I think it's really easy for us to get in the, well, you should know what this is already, or here, let me just check the boxes for you and we're going to move on to the next thing. We are so much more. Mentors can do so much more for our students who are learning. We talked at the very beginning about a mentor that you had that meant something to you, that left a lasting impact on you. And you can be that person for somebody else. And, it's funny, I feel like, even though I've had 15 years in education, I feel like driver education is when I really learned what it means to be a teacher, because it's me and 2 other kids in a car and they're doing something and then I'm telling them how to fix the problems with what they did and they do it again and they fix it. I don't see that anywhere else in any of the education that I have done. And I've taught multiple content areas. That one-on-one we have with those students in the car is really cool. And we can have that same one-on-one with the adults that we're mentoring and bringing up. And I know it takes time. And I know we don't have time. And I know we're tired because let me tell you, when my alarm goes off 3:30 in the morning when I drive, I want to die. But we can do some great things for these people that we're mentoring. And so I hope that you will nurture them and push them to be better. Make sure you hit the important policy things along the way so that they know what they're going to do, what they shouldn't do, because if they do that thing, it's going to cost them their job, their license, and they might even spend some time in jail. But if you tell them, okay, avoid this thing, then they can avoid it and not have any problems and be able to teach successfully for, like we talked about in the chat earlier, for 42 years. There are 2 different teachers for this course. And I need to go back and actually share my screen because just leaving this screen doesn't show you what I want you to see. Okay. There are 2 teachers for this course, myself and Shauna Kay. Shauna will be shortly retiring from Alpine School District, so her email address will change come June 1st. But until June 1st, you can contact her through that email, and she is currently the one teaching the mentor course. We change every 3 months. And then, of course, contact Audra if you have any questions about anything pertaining to how you're going to help your your mentee get to the next place. Things you want to make sure that you've hit, like if there's a topic that we don't address in the mentor course or in the law and policy course, then, you can ask Audra. But if there's anything you feel like you should teach your your teacher candidate, you probably should teach it to them. The things we're giving you are like the basic foundation. There's a lot more that you're going to build on top of that. And you're welcome to call me anytime. I didn't put my phone number up here, but I'll give it to you. It's 801-427-4021. And I will answer my phone, and I'm happy to answer your questions. It's in the courses that your students take, so you'll be able to find it there. And they call me and ask me questions too, and that's just fine. I have no problem. Stuart, I feel the same way. With fewer students, I know, right? It's amazing how you get to be a better teacher because you're in the car with these kids. And it's something they really want to learn, which is a little different. It kind of can be one of those uplifting, fulfilling jobs in education rather than like the drudgery of lesson planning and whatever. Anyway. Okay, anybody have any other questions for me? Feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I unfortunately have finished a few minutes early today. Sorry, Audra.
That's okay. You guys are welcome to ask me questions too if you want.
Is there anybody in here that's currently a mentor and has any questions or problems with their course, with getting into the course, with their mentee, with any of those questions? I know somebody sent me a message and asked for the evaluation forms because they had lost them. If you want to email me, I will send those evaluation forms to you. They're just a PDF on Google. You can open it up in your browser and actually type in it and then print it and sign it. So if anybody needs an evaluation form, let me know. I can send those to you as well. Does you have a driver ed endorsement on the teaching certificate? Yes, it's an attachment to your teaching certificate. There is no undergraduate program for driver education currently in the state of Utah. You have to get your teaching license first, and then you go back to school through the University of Utah and get your driver ed endorsement. But it's attached to your teaching license. It's not attached to your driver license, though. You don't have to do anything with your driver license when you become a driver ed instructor. What about students who are on an SAEP and are already driving? Do they still complete the Canvas course? Yes, the SAEP has been is sunsetting, and they will need to finish that mentor course very soon. In fact, if you're still working on an SAEP, you need to contact Audrey Uri by email. Trevor, I hope you will. I hope you'll join us as a mentor. It's pretty cool. Randy, will you send me an email so I know who to email it to, and I will send you the evaluation form. And then let me know if you need the summative, the formative, or both. Okay, so Audra says no one's on the SAP. Russell, you might want to check with Audra and see what to do with your, I'm assuming it's a teacher candidate. Make sure that we get them on the right path. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to grab this from the chat and go put it in my email.
Since we have some free time, if anybody has any other licensing questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, sorry for the free time.
So Dee Dee, to answer your question, when you need to have your school district, your HR person look you up in Cactus, and it will be attached to your teaching license certificate. So you can only attach a driver's education endorsement to a secondary license, a CTE license, a special ed license, or a counseling license. And once you are completely endorsed, I will let you know that you're endorsed, and licensing will let you know, but it goes on your teaching certificate. When you print it out, it'll be on there, and it'll also, if you look in Cactus, it'll also be on there.
Oh, for the Dee Dee, for the mentoring course, there is no certificate that you get at the end. It will just have the course completion. So once everybody's looked at it, me, Shauna, and Audra will check the course complete box, and then I email Audra with your name and your mentor's name. I probably will email you and ask you for your mentor's name because I don't remember. There's like 50 new people this month. It's a little crazy. So we'll ask you probably for your mentor's name. I'll check that they are finished. I'll mark the course complete button for them, and then I'll email that course completion to Audra. And I usually can get that done within a week of you actually completing things. For the most part, Shauna and I grade at least once a week on that mentoring course. Sometimes it's twice a week. But if something's urgent, you can send us an email and we'll go on and look at it real quick. Or if you have questions, we can always answer too.
Jenny, to answer your questions about acronyms, Cactus in Utah is the same as IC in Idaho. So it's the system that maintains teacher licenses. And looking at the teacher license is how you do that. Idaho does not have an endorsement. It is an annual licensing. So you would have to actually get with Emily to see if somebody is licensed. Midas is where we hold all of the teachers' credits, professional development credits, relicensure points, any courses that they take. We put we at USBE, which is our department, puts every teacher's information into that and all their credits and relicensure. So they can actually print off a transcript instead of going to, say, the University of Utah to get a transcript. They can actually go into our system and print off a transcript, and it tells them where they are with credits and courses.
And that helps with endorsements as well as lane changes. Driver education is a great lane change for every district. It's a little more expensive than some endorsements. It's also cheaper than others, but you're going to make that money back really quickly as soon as you become licensed and endorsed. So, yeah.
And it's also reimbursable. So if your district wants to pay for it for you, and usually they have you sign a contract that says that you'll remain there being a driver's ed teacher for at least 3 years and that you'll pass the courses or have to pay it back, they can get reimbursed for it.
And we work so hard so that you can pass these courses. Like if your mentee can't pass the courses, you need to have a conversation with them. Sorry, that was rude. Anyway, Dave says, I think I'm endorsed but not entered into the DLD. So Dave, do you not have access to DEMS? Is that what you're looking for?
That would be what he's talking about. So Dave, if you're endorsed, you need to reach out to me to get access to DEMS. I'm the only person that can give people access to the driver's education management system. And I'll look up to make sure your license is current. And then if you haven't taken the course and exam to be an examiner, I will send that to you to take it. And then once you pass it, I will give you access to DEMS.
That usually happens pretty quickly. Yeah, Joseph, she'll help you. Joseph, you just finished, right? I think you're recent, so she'll help you get hooked up into DEMS. Okay, well, we have one more presentation tonight, right?
Zero Fatalities Parent Night, and all of their new website and all of their new materials that they have. And we have new workbooks, we have new virtual courses, we have new parent courses. So they're going to go through a bunch of new cool stuff that we have set up with them.
Cool. So everybody can get up and stretch and then come right back.
So go ahead. Yeah, if you guys don't, and you're welcome to keep sending questions if you want, I'll respond to them. Otherwise, you can go ahead and take a break and come back at 4 o'clock to listen to the new Zero Fatalities and all the new materials they have.
And they're doing it all 3 days, right?
Correct.
Okay. Dave Stewart has a question for you, Audra, in the chat. I don't think I've registered for this thing, so I'm going to go do that. If you have forgotten to register, but you have visited this link, then you should probably go register for it so you get credit. Just saying.
Yeah, your credit will go into Midas, and when you log on here, I'll know that you're actually present.
Yeah.
But you need to sign up in Midas or your credit's going to not have anywhere to be posted.
Right.
Dave, I don't understand your question. Should you not be driving because
Maybe he doesn't have access to DEMS. That was what we were talking about when that question came in. Oh, yeah.
yeah, you shouldn't be testing if you don't have access to DIMS because that means that you do not have the examiner training course and we've not given you access to put in students' grades for the test.
But
But if you have an endorsement, you could be.
yeah, and he could be training under his mentor's license, but not testing yet, right?
Correct. Plus, you shouldn't put in other people's scores in DIMS because we can tell who puts them in, and if that student gets in a crash, even down the road after getting their driver's license, they're going to go back and see who entered their scores, and they're going to ask you about their student records. And if you weren't even the person that taught them, you probably shouldn't be putting your name on something in DIMS showing that you were their instructor.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be asking you to sit up on the stand in court and you're not going to know anything about that kid.
Yeah. We have had an experience where a driver education teacher died unexpectedly. This was a number of years ago. And they were in the middle of a course, like almost at the end, but in the middle of a course when they died. And so the students had largely been taught by this other teacher. And then when it came to putting things into the SDC, it had to be another teacher. And it was their boss. And that would be the right way to handle that. So if somebody's hospitalized, somebody's out on whatever, there's a chain of command within education for you to have somebody be able to put that information in for the students without starting over. It's just going to be rare, like real rare.
Dave, let me look up your information and I'll get back with you on your question. If you're not fully endorsed, you shouldn't be in the car alone with the students, but you are endorsed. Yeah, if you're not able to put in your own scores, you probably shouldn't be driving them until you're able to put in your own scores. I don't know who's putting in the scores for you right now. Yeah, Deb, you might not be testing students, but you're still putting in scores for driving with them.
You're not putting in scores, you're putting in that you have completed, that they've
completed behind the wheel. Sharon, Dave's last name is Stewart. Stewart. Sharon from DLD is looking up your DIMS account.
Jim, it looks like you need to talk with Sharon Harward at DEM or at Driver License Division. Jim's in the Q&A and he is helping East catch up, but they put him in a different company in DEMS. He has access to Highland DEMS, but he needs access to East's DEMS as well. So I'll have you two hook up Jim and Sharon so that you can get that figured out.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a big deal if you put them in a different school because we don't pull number of students through DIMS, but eventually we're going to be. And so your numbers would be off. So it's okay if you put somebody else, a student from a different school, and as long as it's under your name, I don't really care what school it goes under.
It only gets to be problematic if we end up having two records for students. So if Jim puts it in there and it's under Highland and it doesn't get linked, but it was supposed to be part of East, and anyway, just make sure that they're linking. You can still find the kid. It's not a big deal.